Hey superstars, welcome back to another episode of Word Up with Danny Katz. Today I am joined by anarcho-capitalist Jeffrey Phillips. So Jeffrey has a YouTube channel and I watched one of his videos on chaos theory and market capitalism, and it helped me understand for the first time how anarchy could really truly be implemented on the heels of a free market economy, free market capitalism. And it really has started to open up my mind to some really cool solutions. So I asked Jeffrey to come on the show to talk to us about market anarchy, anarcho-capitalism, agorism, that whole thing. Before we dive into today's episode, I am reminding you to and thanking you for clicking the subscribe button, liking, sharing, commenting. I'm also going to nudge you to sign up for my newsletter at dannykatz.com. It is the best way to ensure that we stay in touch, that you stay abreast of my every next offering, be it a book, a course, a webinar, a live event, a what have you. And when you sign up, you will get a free PDF, 5 quantum languaging hacks for instant empowerment. I think that does it. Oh no, wait. Reminder that this episode, like all of my podcast episodes, is divided into 2 parts. So the first half is free on all of the audio podcast channels, as well as on Locals and YouTube. The second half is available for my paid supporters on Locals and on Patreon. You can find those links in the description wherever you are watching or listening right now. For as little as $5 a month, you get access to all of my second half conversations, plus bonus content, plus opportunities to drop in with me, opportunities for illustrated swag, lots of fun stuff. So choose the platform that feels most aligned for you, or both, so that you can be sure to hear the second half of my conversation with Jeffrey Phillips and all of my awesome second half conversations. I think that does it. I know that that does it for housekeeping. Oh, one last thing. We had a lot of tech issues at the beginning of our conversation, but both Jeffrey and I were devoted to hanging in there. Our tenacity paid off. So I think after the first 20 minutes, the tech demons stopped messing with us. So thank you for your patience. It does even itself out. And okay, that really does it. Buckle up and prepare to enjoy my conversation with Jeffrey Phillips. I want to start with like how you got on this path and how we actually met, because it's so relevant to the conversation that we're having today. It was, I mean, I call those days now the last days of Silver Lake, because it was like the last days when LA was cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And we had hope. Like it was such an optimistic time that so many of us were like taking the fossil fuel situation into our own hands and supporting one another. We had such a great underground going. And for me personally, I had so much optimism about how we were changing the world. So I'd love to know like how you got into this conversation, and also your take on like what happened to the whole veggie fuel thing.
Yeah, that's a conversation I haven't had in a long time. Yeah, so I was my dad raised me very different than most. He lived on a sailboat. He was a professional sea captain and a part-time paramedic. He'd work for like a week out of the month, and then we'd go sailing and deliver ships all over the West Coast. By the time I was 15, I had sailed from Alaska to Chile on sailboats. And I mean, when you live on a sailboat, you're kind of always camping in a way. Like it's a very like rugged way to live, I guess. And it kind of teaches you how to be very self-sufficient and resourceful. And so having that influence growing up kind of just like and he taught me how to be a mechanic also, and work on marine diesels in sailboats. And so there aren't a lot of diesel mechanics. And after I was in a pretty big band for a long time, and I was partying all crazy in Hollywood. So after I left that band, I had some money left over, and I started the business where I met you, which was a diesel repair slash veggie oil conversion slash just a kind of any alternative fuel type of business. It was like a car shop, where I would do, like, I'd put diesel engines in cars that didn't have diesels and convert them to run off vegetable oil, and I'd convert fleet vehicles to run off vegetable oil. I had a customer that was they're a trash truck company, but they picked up vegetable oil from restaurants. And so I converted his trash trucks to run off the oil that they picked up. And they had been picking up oil for like years and just had this whole field full of 55-gallon barrels full of it. And so I converted this guy's fleet. I don't know if you remember, during that time, fuel prices got to be like $5 for gas or something during that time for the first time ever. Like, that's cheap now, but back then that was crazy. And so I was just one guy in a shop, mostly working on Mercedes and like Volkswagens, and just like trying to basically letting people avoid the road tax too, which eventually came around and bit me in the ass. But the veggie oil thing is you're supposed to voluntarily pay a tax on it, and if you don't, you're basically using the roads for free, which is like not, the powers that be don't really like that. But anyway,
well, wait, hold on.
I think we met.
Let me ask you about that, because was it always like that? I thought that was something that Schwarzenegger did, like mid veggie oil conversions, which seems so hypocritical, given that his cars were converted to run on them.
Yeah, he was, Lovecraft, they converted Arnold's Hummer. I was down there helping him when they did that. And he was taking that thing around, showing it to everyone, being like, California is the #1 green, state, and like, we're going to be passing all these laws. And I was actually working with, I don't know if you know Felipe Calderon he's the Mexican president, but at the time he wasn't. And I was involved with his family in trying to get legislation passed to try and allow biodiesel to be supplemented into the diesel that we have now, which we have that now, but this is 15 years ago. I was trying to get them to do this, and we were getting nothing but pushback, obviously, because we're messing with big oil's profits when we're doing that. And so I was like, I was really popular for a little bit there, because I was, one of the few shops that actually did that kind of stuff. And I was very passionate about getting biodiesel, replacing the petroleum-based diesel with biodiesel, because it absolutely could have worked. Now you get like they have like B20 now, or B10, where they put like a little bit of vegetable oil in it, and then the gas company gets a tax write-off. So it's not even really biodiesel, but they're at least supplementing it, which is a little bit better. But yeah, that was the whole thing, is once CNN came by my shop and did like a live 5-minute piece on my shop and what I was doing. And right after that, all these inspectors showed up and shut me down. As Arnold Schwarzenegger was flossing his Hummer that runs on vegetable oil to all these, like, and all the, as he's doing that, he was basically shut me down, just inundated me with fines and fees, and I had to shut down. There was nothing else I could do. And that's really was my tipping point with the whole government doing it their way thing. And after that was when really I mean that really radicalized me, because I put like 5 years into that business. And it was like the CNN, I got on Discovery Channel and on CNN, and I was finally starting to get like some like I started that business at the pit of the economy tanking in 2007, right before So no one really had money to do the stuff that I did. So I had to mainly become like a repair shop. And so I didn't have, as popular as I was, as far as like that kind of stuff was going, CNN came around and Discovery Channel came around, then that put me on the radar for, hey, this guy's doing something we don't want to be done, and so they shut me down. But it was very unusual to get shut down, when you'd think they'd be like, hey, like, we want more stuff like this. But what I was doing, you could go do right now. And all they want to talk about was like hydrogen was like 10 years out. And, they didn't want to do anything now. And I recognized that. So I started putting actual cars on the road, and like, Lovecraft was really big too, which was really cool. But they were pretty much strictly Mercedes and only like a certain pretty basic conversion. But that's how I think we met. You were going to Lovecraft for a while, but they shut down. And I think they referred you to me.
Yeah,
I don't remember. Did you have a?
Oh, go ahead.
I was just trying to remember your car. What color was it?
It was black.
Blue. Black? Oh, wow.
A black turbo diesel with tan interior. And at the time, like, so I think it was around 2006 when Mocha was doing their big advertising campaign and they were taking over billboards. And, I remember they had one over a strip club and it was like nudity and alcohol. And I went to the gas station and on the pump, they had one that said Middle East dependency. And it really cut me to my core. And I was like, I need to get off this. And I bought a Benz and I took it to Lovecraft. And we had this like really vibrant community of people, driving biodiesels and other mechanics working on them and an underground, recycled veggie oil exchange. And then it really didn't last long before not only Schwarzenegger clamped down and it was like illegal to put anything in your tank that you weren't paying tax on. But I also heard from the guys running the underground veggie oil exchange that they were getting like muscled and threatened by the waste disposal guys. Yeah. So it was like kind of from all ends. And it really didn't last long that everyone who converted, like once they shut you down, I think there was no one left to work on our cars anymore.
Yeah, to this day. Well, it was crazy because there are renders. There are people who actually are companies that have contracts with veggie oil, with restaurants to pick it up. And they pick that up because it's worth a lot of money. All it needs to be done is clean and it can be sold again. Same as like with engine oil. That's why the companies go around, they pick up the engine oil. That's why like AutoZone, they'll take back your engine oil because that's $1 a gallon they get for that stuff still. So the idea of the veggie oil thing was really good and it could have gotten really big, the whole underground thing, because we had the underground veggie oil exchange had like filling stations, a few different filling stations in town that you can go to if you knew where it was and you knew the combo. And it was a very grassroots movement to try and make an infrastructure for veggie oil cars. But there's so little veggie oil and it became so popular that basically all the restaurants are got contracted up with these renders, and all the veggie oil people wanted the oil, but it was like kind of illegal for them to collect it, and they couldn't collect it over the like. There was definitely like a bunch of like, if you had a source for the oil, you were in good shape, and you should get one of those cars. If not, it was tough to keep veggie oil in there. Just because there's not that much of it. And then on top of that, they have the renderers were selling it to biodiesel facilities. So they were getting good money for it. And then biodiesel was like $6 a gallon back then. It was really expensive for actual biodiesel, which made it kind of not very economical anymore. And that's what they've done by raising the price of diesel in California. It used to be, remember, like $1.99. It was always like $1 cheaper than regular gas historically my whole life. And then they basically, in California, we have to use ultra low sulfur diesel. So all the diesel that has to be refined in California has to be like double refined. So it's a more expensive process, thus raising the price. So diesel is like more expensive than even like super unleaded now, which is just, it takes the whole economical part out of it, because it used to be diesels always get better gas mileage. But when you're paying $6 a gallon, you know, at least back then, I'm talking old time, like $6 nothing these days for diesel, but back in the day, it was pretty nuts. But I rarely had any veggie oil around, because I would use it, and my customers, whenever I get a bunch, I'd always have customers that would come get it, or it was, and then once the state started actually clamping down on everyone, there was just nothing we could do. Because I remember it was like the week after I was on CNN, like 4 different inspectors came by and gave me like, they had like seen it, and someone called them, and they were like, they were coming to shut me down. They didn't say I had to shut down, but they said I had to pay all this stuff, and would continue to have to pay all these things. And like, it was like, they were just made it too hard for me to be in business.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was crazy times, because everybody, man, because it was like Inconvenient Truth was out, and the whole greenwashing thing happened, and everybody was all about it. And it was really cool. It was really cool to be like, that, like the whole country was like basically like together on that thing. But then the economy tanked, the bankers screwed everything up. So, you know, that kind of quelled that between, I mean, the economy tanking and at least the California government literally putting laws, because during that time we could do biodiesel, but then who was it? DuPont wrote a law, made a law in California and got it passed that they basically said biodiesel would deteriorate all the fuel tanks that exist in California if you put in it that are underground. Therefore, everyone needed to reline their tanks with DuPont's product. Like this whole BS corporate, you know, like thing happened, and they actually passed the law saying we couldn't hold biodiesel in any of the diesel tanks that exist, which, yes, because biodiesel is vegetable oil. It's not acidic. It's way less caustic than petroleum diesel. So it was like, what, because I was working on that legislature, and then that passed like right underneath us. They're like, oh, no diesel can be held. No, you should just be able to supplement into the infrastructure we already have. You know, hydrogen 10 years out because we need to build the infrastructure, but we had a diesel infrastructure and have for 100 years almost in California. So all you need to do is change before putting it. But they had that. And that's when I kind of, and then I got shut down, and I was just like, all right, not wasting my time on this garbage anymore, like trying to do things their way. Yeah.
Jeffrey,
that was fun.
Jeffrey,
it was
hang on
a
1
big
second.
chapter of my life.
Hang on, you're freezing up a little bit. And I'm wondering if maybe, I don't want to miss your face, but it's like the sound's getting a little bit garbled. I'm wondering if there would be more bandwidth.
Okay, how's it now?
Say a couple things.
Yeah, testing.
We can try it. Yeah, we'll try it. It's okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, good.
I can hear you.
I remember at the same time, like when they shut all you guys down and put the kibosh on the recycled veggie oil, then we were going to Costco, and then Costco started to jack their veggie oil to match gas prices. So their like veggie oil prices were changed by the day depending on what was happening with fossil fuel prices.
Yeah, the supply, there was never enough of it. Like usually you have a market would fluctuate like that, and then they'd make a lot of oil and to lower the price to keep it competitive, but they raised, like it was like twice as much. The regular vegetable oil was like, it was almost priced enough where it was like $20 for a gallon, for a 5-gallon thing, and it was like, okay, that's almost worth, you know, using. But then it went to like 40 or 30, I think, where it just like it became more expensive than petroleum diesel. and that's their way of basically just not making it worth it, you know.
Right.
Unless you have, you know, you like own a restaurant, you know, and you can get your own oil. It made it really, really tough. But there are tons of the cars out there converted that time, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm curious to know, like, how many, because I mean, they obviously thought it was a huge threat to clamp down so hard and so obviously so quickly. How many converted cars do you think were on the road?
I would be totally taking a shot in the dark, but I know Lovecraft did. I did at least a couple hundred. They did a lot more than me. I recognize almost every Mercedes I see in LA. Honestly, it's really weird. Like there are only so many of those Benz around,
Yeah.
and like
Oh, and pause for technical difficulties. Mercury is still retrograde at the time of recording. Thank you for your patience, beautiful audience. We're working it out. Hello?
good old 5G, man.
Are you back?
Sure, worth going to 5G. Yeah.
Sound isn't
Hear
working.
me?
Not really. Oh, you're frozen. Hello?
Oh my God. Let me restart my phone. Leave
Okay.
and restart my phone.
Okay. Okay.
It's,
Hi. Can you hear me?
all right, I think that's that. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh,
We good?
awesome. Yeah, we're good.
Sorry, I don't usually ever have problems with my setup. This sucks.
No, you know what? It's because this is such an important conversation. They don't want us to have
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
They're hacking us.
Yeah. Okay, so you got radicalized from this basically like a crowbar to the knees of the recycled veggie oil situation that happened in LA. And so
Yeah.
catch us up between there and where you're at now.
Then I started I did the diesel thing, but I got into like vintage motorcycles, building vintage motorcycles, and I got like deep into like riding motorcycles and stuff. And through that, I was riding with this one bike club, and one of the guys in the club was like super badass libertarian. That like he it's my buddy Roger. He actually he got you know 1650 the W Hotel down in Hollywood. 1650 is it's like residential suites. He got a residential suite at 1650, gutted the place, made a stage, and started doing Ron Paul meetup events for the 2012 elections.
Nice.
And actually, I had first heard about Ron Paul in 2008 when I was doing my veggie oil stuff. But he's like a Republican. And I was like, what is this Republican saying cool stuff, you know, but didn't really think much more of it. And then, so my buddy in this bike club is like really badass libertarian guy. And I started going to his meetups and I got like really into it. Because it's like, it's a whole like, you know, get rid of all the alphabet agencies, the IRS, the FBI, you know, like get rid of, like cut down, because the libertarian ideal is small to no government, you know, the free market regulating, and the people and the free market regulating, and then we get into the whole chaos theory thing, which we get into in a little bit. So Ron Paul 2012 election was about that the time I was doing the meetups and all that, and then we had a Ron Paul event at UCLA and like 8,000 people showed up when everyone else couldn't get 30 people to a town square meeting. Like, you know, like he was like running against all these like dorky Republican guys, you know, and he was like a really cool, I don't know if you've seen any Ron Paul stuff. He just, this old nice old guy, just spit fire, just like leave people alone. We got to cut down on government. He was a Kentucky congressman. Like every year he sent back most of the money he was given to do his job, because it's just not necessary. And he voted basically against everything ever put on his in front of him as a congressman, which is like kind of like, if you still believe in government, you know, that's what our people should be doing. They should be voting no on everything, not yes on everything, because we don't have enough money for all this stuff. So anyway, so UCLA there were so many people that it was like, oh, we actually might win this. And where I don't think we ever thought we actually had a chance. Seeing UCLA and seeing him go through California and every event like selling out with like people spilling over into the roads and stuff was pretty crazy to see. And then he got unseated. The GOP unseated him and wouldn't allow him to be the one who actually ran against Obama. And so that also radicalized me, because I was really pissed off, because I put a lot of time and effort and voted and all that stuff, you know, and they just, you know, again, like crowbar to the knees with that one also. So there's a little saying that most libertarians are only libertarian for about 3 months before they turn into anarchists.
And what's the difference?
So anarchists believe in zero government, like whatsoever. Libertarians still mostly are minarchists, which means they believe in a minimal amount of government, which most anarchists don't believe that will actually work, because for the most part, government is a vacuum. You let it exist, it's going to suck everything into it and become huge no matter what we do, just because of the type of people that get involved in government. Usually only psychopaths want that much power over lots of people. So, you know, you kind of gain a certain type of deceptive person, or you attract a deceptive type of person to those types of jobs. So you have a bunch of deceptive people working for themselves, trying to make themselves money. You know, it's just a mess. But so I became very involved in, you know, just like I became quite like a economics nerd with like the Austrian economics and the Ludwig von Mises and Murray Rothbard and that guy Robert Murphy that wrote Chaos Theory. So during the time I was libertarian and doing those events at the W, I had a buddy who came to me and was like, I think you're an anarchist. And I was like, I don't think so. Like, that's because in our heads we're taught that that's a bad word. It's stigmatized very much. We think anarchist, we think of a guy throwing a Molotov cocktail at a building, you know, which is like, in my eyes, people growing their own gardens is anarchy, you know, but I didn't know that then. So I had a buddy who was like, hey, you know, you should watch this. He's like, I know it's long. And I'm like, 2 hours, Jesus Christ, that's super long. Now I do podcasts for like 8 hours now. But back then I was like, geez. So I ended up watching it, and it was very, you know, you watched it. It's we could post a link. It's a very interesting 2-hour lecture where a guy goes through the pros and cons and the answers to any question you may have pertaining to what if we got rid of government, like what would actually happen tomorrow. You know, most people think, and what government has brainwashed into our heads and what the media has brainwashed into our heads is that it would be the Wild West tomorrow. Everybody would be killing each other, you know, that's the whole idea that laws are keeping us from killing each other, not us actually like our humanity and not like wanting to hurt other people. It's just laws, you know, and it's that's whole the big government idea that everything everything is held together by laws. But really, anarchists believe the complete opposite, that there's actually a greater good to humanity, not a greater evil, and the evil that we do see is factory farming and war. The biggest evils we have, the hell that is on earth, are those two things, and those are basically held together by government and tradition and just BS. And and we believe, if there was no government out there, that I can get into the chaos theory stuff, but the chaos theory stuff's really cool. So we've been brainwashed to think that it would be complete chaos if there was no government. But I believe tomorrow, if we got rid of government tonight, everybody would go back to work. I don't think there would be some, misbehavior, and there would be some bad actors. For the most part, I think we would, humanity would get together and just go back to work, and we'd figure out everything in the first, in a couple of months. But in my opinion, the chaos theory lecture is like the best. It's not perfect, but it's so much better than what we're doing now. And basically the idea behind chaos theory is that, that all the cities would create their own laws, and you would have the ability to opt out and leave these different cities, where how we have it now, we have whatever they figure out or write on paper in Washington, D.C., we have to deal with it no matter what. We can't just be like, hey, I don't want to have anything to do with this, guys, so just leave me alone. You can't do that. That is not freedom. Freedom would be the ability to opt out, true freedom. So sans government, where we have the ability to opt out, so every city would basically become whatever government, like San Francisco would stay a very liberal place. They'd make their own laws. If you didn't like it, you could go to a different city. And what likely would happen, would be that there would be insurance-based systems, and that's it's kind of scary to hear, because insurance is also another kind of stigmatized word, because it's been used to do so much bad under the monopoly of government. But insurance, basically, if you wanted to move to LA, right, you'd hit up LA and you'd be like, I want to move here, and they'd be like, okay, well, we require this caliber of insurance, and you have to read our rule book before you come in, so ahead of time. Because all our court system now, they're like, oh, did they know that it was murder? Did they plot this before? It's all this BS. In our system now, the victim becomes the victim twice when the person actually goes away to jail, because the victim has to pay taxes to house that criminal. So They get victimized by the criminal, and then they get victimized by the court by having to pay to house the criminal in a camp where they become a bigger criminal. It makes no sense, clearly, how we have things now.
Let me ask you.
In these
Hang on a second. I want to ask you, because I mean, what I appreciated about the video, and I will share the link, is that it offers a practical, grounded structure for anarchy that totally makes sense. And for me, in my mind, it took what was always this conceptual abstraction, I don't see how that would work, and it explains how it would work. But a couple things. Yeah. One, it is dependent upon insurance and contracts. And it seems like it is relying on maintaining the justice system, which to me is one of the more fetid, toxic branches of government, which itself is completely fetid and toxic. So that was kind of one question that I had, we're really going to stick with this system. But my question to you, given that you got turned on to this around 2008-ish, is I'm wondering if, after what we've seen with the Branch Covidians and the nonsense of the past 3 years, do you think that humanity is responsible enough for this type of system, given what we've seen in the past 3 years?
I think that, well, what we've seen in the past several years has been forced on us by the powers that be, i.e. government and whatever shadow government is beyond them. So sans them, and we just, there would definitely be some growing pains, because we're right now, when we see something bad happen, everybody just pulls out their cell phone instead of stopping what's happening.
Right.
Because we've been trained to call the cops. It doesn't make any sense. So in chaos theory, you'd have free market enterprise dealing with security. Basically, I would hire a company that I trust to secure me, and they would, these companies, these security companies, would be competing with each other, offering the best product for the lowest amount of dollar. Where how we have now, we're forced this low product for the most amount of money, with government dealing with all the numbers.
Right.
And they just let, and then they don't regulate, like they don't regulate the cops, but in chaos theory, in anarchy land, you'd have a corporation that wants to make money and a board holding, you're basically using their greed for good instead of for bad.
Yep.
They're like, okay, so and then this community is voting with their dollar majorly. We don't do that anymore. We buy whatever, we pay whatever we have to, government makes us pay DMV, pay, down to local government doesn't even let us choose our digital cable and stuff like that. So it's like, once there's actually competition in the markets, and government isn't allowing certain guys to get ahead artificially, the free market will have these very good products for the cheapest amount of money. And like, where the naysayer might be, oh, well, if the government's not regulating, this ketchup company, they're going to sell poisonous ketchup, people are going to die, but that how does the board on that company's board expect to make money if they're selling poisonous ketchup? Like, the market, if set up correctly, will regulate itself far better than government's regulating things. I mean, look at the TSA. They haven't caught a single terrorist since 9/11. They've let a bunch of sketchy people onto planes. The government doesn't. It's the lowest dollar, the most amount of work for the lowest dollar with the government. And that would be completely different with the government gone, not trying to artificially control the market.
Mm-hmm. And how do we rectify the judicial system, which seems like it's a key component of market anarchy in terms of like contracts and accountability, unless I'm misunderstanding it?
Yeah, well, in order to get, like, for instance, I want to move into LA. I hit up LA. They say, hey, you're going to have to get this insurance. I get the insurance. It's $3 a month because I haven't killed anybody yet. Like, if I kill someone, they drop my insurance and kick me out of town, and I have to go live somewhere not as ideal. So it makes you want to be a good person to stay in your city that is, like, the insurance-based thing. It's a little bit complicated, but once you get into contracts and the judicial, that was the whole reason why I did that video again recently, is because chaos theory is like from the 90s, I believe, and they don't understand the blockchain. There was no blockchain, there was no cryptocurrency. I don't know if you know about Ethereum.
Yep.
Ethereum is like the second most popular crypto. Its thing that it does is it's smart contracts. So a smart contract is, I'm going to make a smart contract between me and my son. I'm going to give him X amount of Bitcoin. On the day he graduates, I'm going to set up this smart contract to look online at his grades. And if his grades are this, give him this much. If his grades are that, give him that much. And if he doesn't get good grades, sends me the money back. I can set this up 20 years out. Mm-hmm. This will happen with no other human involvement whatsoever. And it will happen as long as there is still internet on the planet somewhere. Mm-hmm. Like Ethereum, with the smart contracts, it's like it is banking without banks. We don't need third parties anymore. Ethereum allows you to download an app and get a loan instantly without talking to another human. So where in chaos theory,
but we do need third parties in terms of electricity and internet, which the government still has their grubby hands in.
Yeah, but they don't. I mean, if we're worried about like with cryptocurrency, obviously everyone should have a broad spectrum portfolio and not put all their money into crypto. Crypto, yes, if the power grid somehow goes down and the internet goes down, you will temporarily be away from your money. But if that's happening, that means there's like a cataclysm going on, because like there is really no power grid. There's thousands of grids connected and thousands of internets connected, and there's no one person that can just switch those things off. So at that end, I would say it's kind of, you're pretty much safe from that kind of thing happening. As far as crypto goes, like we'd have bigger problems than just currency if we're like losing electricity. And you can trade crypto without electricity, but it's just, you obviously need it to actually transact. But so with the smart contracts, the one thing that Robert Murphy didn't really have an answer for, which is perfectly fine, because we don't know what the free market's going to give us in the future. What types of products. Right now, we can only speculate, but most likely be very wrong when future comes around and shows us some cool new products. So they didn't know about smart contracts. So once you add smart contracts into the whole judicial security system in anarchy land, these contracts are finalized on their own. Like you don't need humans. You need a bank. You don't need a trust. You don't need any of these things. It's something you do once on your cell phone, and you pay a little bit of money to make it happen. But it takes it. You have to beg the Rothschilds anymore, So, but basically implementing Ethereum smart contract, just smart contracts alone, enhance the whole chaos theory thing like 1,000%, and we don't even know what kind of Ethereums they're going to be in 20 years, so it's like they'll be better products.
And so it goes, tribe. We're still navigating tech opportunities for patience, for trust, for surrender, for deep breaths, for big sips of water.
Damn, I was on a good roll there.
It's all good. Are you back?
Am I here? You hear me?
I can hear. It's a little bit garbled, but I can't see you. Pause for tech difficulties, tribe. We're back. We might be back. We're on our way to being back. Are we back? Hello? We're not having a sound. Let's see. Let me pause again.
I don't know what's going on.
Mercury is very retrograde, and the powers that were don't want people to know that there are sane alternatives available for us.
Yeah, it's super funny. So so the whole smart contract and cryptocurrency blockchain element makes the whole chaos theory thing 1,000 times better. So that's kind of why I did that video the other day, was just to get the idea onto the internet. But yeah,
can you have smart contracts without cryptocurrency? So what if there's what about the potential scenario where you can't get internet access unless unless you have a digital ID or some sort of chip or whatnot. Like, what about the scenario where in the breakaway society is going to be totally analog? Do we have an option for smart contracts?
Yeah, well, what our government's doing right now is they're headed toward central bank digital currencies,
Right.
CBDCs, and those are cryptocurrencies like Ethereum. But each crypto does a different thing. Bitcoin is just simply a store of money, like gold. Ethereum has its smart contracts where there's every other crypto does a certain thing. It's a software that does a task that is better than anything that we have now. Like I said, there's cryptos that you can get a loan from. There's cryptos you can loan your money out for interest for, and you just download them. You don't have to go to the bank. You don't have to borrow. You don't have to beg a Rothschild central banker for your future. You could actually get it for peer to peer through these blockchains, and you can't these like a Bitcoin, for instance. If you try and hack a Bitcoin, like 700 computers will find out. Everything is analyzed by there's something called mining, which is you use your computer or you use a type of computer to mine crypto. And what you're doing while you're mining is you're getting paid to do all the work of like analyzing every transaction that's going through and making sure it's legit. So it's Bitcoin's never been hacked.
Hold up, because I had over $8,000 worth of Bitcoin stolen, and it's like, great, over 700.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
Well, this is my point, is there's no recourse. It's like, okay, it was stolen. So there was a glitch on Jax that made it so that the button was grayed out when I tried to move my Bitcoin to a hard wallet. So I emailed them multiple times for customer service, didn't get any. I messaged them on Twitter. I got a message back from Jax support, which sent me a link to a Jax support page. It was all fake.
Yeah.
And I typed but none of the 700 computers who hashed that have my back. Like, they don't care. They're like, yes, you got ripped off.
What happened there was you chose a centralized business to deal with. You dealt with a company that had humans behind it. There's decentralized and there's centralized. Centralized is it's a company that started and they're doing some crypto stuff. The crypto that I promote is decentralized, where there's no humans behind it. There's no hacks. It's like Bitcoin's been around for 12 years. It's worked perfect the whole time. Therefore, I trust it. There's no human behind Bitcoin because it's decentralized. There's like cryptos like XRP you'll hear is very popular. That is a centralized coin. That means that it can be manipulated by the humans involved with it. I think, you got caught in a actual scam, which there is tons of scams that are very convincing. And but the thing is with crypto and why it's cool, because there's no recourse. You have to be careful about which ones you use and you pick. Obviously, there's hundreds of thousands of cryptos, but decentralized coins are the ones that are the Ethereum and Bitcoin, and like these decentralized coins are the ones that I'm excited about. The centralized ones, some of them have uses, and you don't always get scammed. But there's this term in crypto called not your keys, not your crypto, where you want to keep your Bitcoin on your personal wallet. You don't want to leave it on companies' wallets where it's like getting interest or something, or these companies want you to loan them your crypto basically, and they'll give you really crazy good interest rates, and you can make a lot of money doing it, but you can't trust any. You got to kind of stick with the big mainstream companies, unfortunately, if you're going to be leaving your money out places. But that's the thing.
What is the upside of having 700 different computers hashing transactions if there's no recourse for fraudulent transactions?